Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about time management. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, how can I manage my time to learn a new programming language and do a project at the same time? Well, depending on how we interpret this, I'm just going to assume now that you're talking about learning a new programming language and doing your own side project, because I could also read into this that you have a project, or let's say like a work type of thing. Like a classic question I get a lot of the time is, how do I possibly manage having a full-time developer job, or a whatever job you have, right, and then learn programming on top of that? And so the response I can give you there is basically you can do exactly what I do now in my days, because I am outside of work doing full-time work as a software developer, like as a programmer. I'm learning, let's see here now. I'm trying to learn Blender, which is the 3D software. I've picked up a few courses on like photography and things like that, and some extracurricular activities that I need in order to understand how to make good renders and models and sculpting and things like that, more of that sort of stuff. And so if I were to put it in crass, like sort of to get at the root of the question here, the thing I'm doing is the same thing you're doing. It's just that I have already done that thing that you're talking about. I've already taken the time to learn programming in exactly the same way I'm going to tell you how to do it and like how to manage that time. And I'm doing this exact same thing again, but now my job is the thing that you're trying to achieve. So if I went to one of the YouTubers and who does 3D modeling or game asset development or things like that, and I said, "Oh, how can I possibly be a programmer at the same time and then have time to learn sculpting?" I hope that that individual will tell me the same damn thing I'm going to tell you. There are more hours in a day than the time you're spending at work. And I know that that is, well, for some reason, things that people don't want to hear. Because whenever I say that, I always get to back, but I'm so tired, but I have kids, but I have A, I have B, I have C. And I go, okay, then don't do it. Then it's clearly impossible. It is to me literally as if it is truly the case, if there are no excuses, let's just assume that these things are, you don't have any excuses, it's really impossible for whatever reason. I find that extremely hard to believe, but I'm gonna humor you and say, if you came to me and said, "Hey Frederick, I want to be able to turn right and left at the same time, how do I do that?" I would kind of just shake my head and like shrug my shoulders, and I go, "I don't know." How would you? I have no idea. Like you're putting you're presenting a situation that cannot be resolved in any way. So just quit. That's my tip to you. But on the off chance, just just on the off chance that your situation is not impossible, and let's remember, guys, there are people who have mental disabilities who have managed to become lawyers. There are people who have no arms and legs who have been able to compete at a professional level in athletic sports and things like we were talking about. There are people who have proven that the cannot do it thing, like how likely that is to be true, there's a lot of wiggle room between it cannot be done and that it's just really hard to do it. And so what I want you to understand is that the thing I'm doing, literally the thing I'm doing, and every single other person who's ever tried to have a hobby and maybe turn that into a career or something like that, is to commit to doing it on a regular basis. Practice it. So how you manage your time, well, that depends on who you are. Are you working nights? Are you part-timer, full-timer? Like, how are you doing things? Like, what I'm saying is that committed practice, just as going to the gym or whatever. Like, that is how you do it. You can, I'll give you, I think I've said this 100 times now, I do exactly the same thing. I did the same thing when I was a software developer. If for those of you who haven't seen those sort of videos, you can go and watch them. Basically, it comes down to, like, I literally sat every single day when I was in this case, I did actually take an education, so it was not just learning a new programming language. I actually did it as as part of my education. And apart from the schoolwork, which, like, we had courses 3 times a week or something like that. Apart from that, I spent the rest of that time doing personal projects. I am a big believer in personal projects. I always tell people the same thing over and over. Go in and watch tutorials until you get the basic understanding of whatever you're doing. I did exactly the same thing when I'm doing 3D modeling and things like that right now. I didn't know the first thing. I couldn't even get that damn cube to split into more segments or to more faces than it has. Like that was my first challenge, to just figure out how to do that. And then I learned some commands, and I couldn't even navigate in the system on my first try. And so I watched a bunch of tutorials on various ways that people have done things, and like introductions and so forth and so forth, and then I started clicking around. Like, my first project was literally, let's get this little ramp to roll a ball down the ramp. That was the whole animation. That was assuming that is up there. Like, I started uploading all the shit I've done in Blender for, like, on my personal Instagram, that I got only to prove to you guys that I suck at something really, really bad. Apart from whatever you might feel I'm sucking at right now, I want you to see like, I did, for those of you who know it, I have a GitHub account as well, where I did exactly the same thing. You can go right now, if you wanted to, and check out my GitHub account. All the way back, I think it stretches all the way back to my first project in school. I'm pretty sure, like, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it stretches all the way back to show you that I did not know all the things I know now. Like, it wasn't like I just magically became a software developer and there you go. I spent tons of time on it, and I hope to be able to do the same sort of thing with, maybe I'll lose interest in 3D modeling or things like that. Maybe that's not going to be my big thing, the next thing that I do. Because the reason I started with it was because I started getting a little bit, at this point, if I'm going to get better at software development, I'm going to have to do some very serious shit, and it's not really something I can do in my spare time. I have to actually work at companies or work on very, very serious projects, and that was not the thing I wanted to do at this moment, so I did the other thing. So managing your time, there is no time issue for you. We're talking about, if you have free time, then commit to doing personal projects. As I said, just go on YouTube, like, go on the internet and start looking at, okay, introduction, like, new programming language, easiest thing in the world. Which one is it? Google for it. Introduction to C, C#, Java, Python, Ruby. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Elixir, it could be anything. Just go and look at some videos so you get the basic syntax. Start working with a Hello World application the first moment you have time. Because I promise you, if you're looking for time, you will find time. It is a question of priorities, I will argue. As I said in my little rant earlier, it is pretty substantial that you establish very quickly with yourself, like, you be honest with yourself, that it's not that you don't have time, usually. It is that you're putting that time on other things, or you're lacking motivation, energy, whatever. And I'm just going to put it out there, guys. There are people, absolutely, who, as I said, they have good reasons. There is nothing they can do. Okay, then I'm sorry. Then you are going to have to sit there with me, who's just going to have to sit here and accept that I would probably never be the world's richest guy. I can go to Elon Musk right now and ask, how do I become the world's richest? And he says that I have to do A, B, and C. And I go, I can't do A, B, and C. What the fuck is he going to tell me? It's the same problem. You're like, if you cannot invest what is necessary to achieve a goal, then you have no options. Then sorry, then there is nothing you can do. So what I want you to take away from this is that manage your time to learn a new programming language is as easy as make sure that you actually put the time in. For me to learn just one programming language, my first programming language, it was I studied for at least 2 years full time. And I'm talking more, I would even go as far as to say more than full time, just to get to a point where I started doing it as a profession. And then after that, it's been, your 9 to 5-ish type of work deal plus, because I actually love my job enough to do it even more so. So now I've been doing that for a very, very long time. And now I do exactly the same thing I did in those days, but I do it with 3D modeling instead. So I have some time over once I'm done with work, and I watch a few videos, I have something on in the background sometimes, and sometimes I more commit to a specific video if someone's really good at teaching me something or showing me how to do something. And then I just open up my different tools that I'm using and I start playing around. And I suck at all of it. And I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with it. I'll just keep on, I make an example of what I just do something. It sucked. Okay, throw away that project, put up the next project, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. And I just have to commit to being able to do that. And that is all you really need. And nobody, I can't tell you, I have a certain amount of time on my hands, and you have a different amount of time on your hands. You have to, usually, as I said, it's not a question of that you don't have the time or you can't manage your time. It's a question of, are you willing to put this as a priority, and do you have the necessary discipline to commit to it? I'm very lucky here because I usually find it very easy to commit things that I think are interesting. On the flip side, things that I don't find interesting is impossible for me to care about, and that's just me. But chances are that if you're having problems with learning a new programming language and handling a new project or something like that at the same time, or you're finding it hard to manage your time, it's usually a question of that you need to structure your life to allow for that time, for that practice time. So see if you can shuffle things around, whatever issues you might have to find that time, and put dedicated time towards these sorts of projects. And the rest of it is, in my opinion at the very least, down to, are you willing to make those sorts of investments? Because if you are, you're probably going to find the time to practice. And if you're not, well, then I hope that you have something else that is much more important and much more enjoyable going on. Have a great day.